T-Rex.
Jurassic World Rebirth has gone ahead and blown everyone away with its T-Rex river raft scene. But do you actually know how the original attack from the Jurassic Park book went down? My friends, this is Jacob, and we're going to delve deep into everything you need to know about the iconic river raft Rex attack, and I'm gonna summarize it to digestible levels, or else this video would be like an hour long. We'll talk about how and why this scene happened in the books, and I'll even tell you why it took decades to finally make its way into a feature film. Make sure to subscribe if you like big scary things like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and let's get to it. Jurassic World Rebirth has given a lot to inspect with its river raft scene, and for the most part, it's nearly an identical, dare I say, faithful adaptation of the famous scene from the novel. Sure, how things play out is a little different, but mostly the only major difference are the characters thrown into this scene. In Rebirth, we have the new family, the Delgados, being harassed by the Rex. Originally, in the book, it was intended for Dr. Grant and the kids from Jurassic Park, Tim and Lex. Let's start at the beginning of the raft scene from Rebirth. We can see that one of the Delgados stumbled upon the Rex resting by the riverside, without even knowing the beast was there. In the book, Dr. Grant and the kids come across a very similarly described setting, a riverside with a dock, and at the end of it, you guessed it, a raft. Dr. Grant, being the expert he is, was able to spot the Tyrannosaur, and even though all the tension made him begin to sweat, he slowly, carefully handled the kids' emotions, making sure they remained calm as possible, and more importantly, that they stayed very quiet. It probably felt like hours, but in reality, it was merely a few seconds. Grant was quickly but carefully able to get the raft in position for them all to hop aboard, all while the Rex continued its power nap in the hot jungle sun. For Rebirth, the Rex attacked after the raft inflating woke it up, and after it was distracted by a pterosaur, it turned its attention to the Delgado family. In the books though, the eventual reason for the attack is something we can probably all attest to. The version of Lex from the book had an issue where she would get a scratch in her throat at like the worst times possible. She would get to these points to where she would just uncontrollably get into these coughing fits. Eventually, one of her coughs, described to snap as loud as a gunshot across the river, came bursting out, and you guessed it, the Rex began to stir and slowly came out of its slumber. Now on the raft, Dr. Grant began to row as fast as he could as the Rex slowly started to rise and walk into the river. Panic set in, and the kids began to lose it emotionally as the Rex walked into the river, and then began to swim like a crocodile straight for them. We see this play out nearly step by step in Rebirth. Pretty cool actually. As they gripped to the raft with all their might, the Rex attacked them, but never managed to flip them off the raft before being distracted by a younger Rex who had just shown up in the Rex's territory. The Tyrannosaur on the attack abandoned its hunt to go fend off the imposter, and Grant and the kids were able to get away, at least for the moment. So the movie version of the scene didn't include the second Rex, for unknown reasons, likely due to saving costs of production, or to just make sure the scene wasn't a direct copy of the original from the book. In the book, as the trio drifts down the river after the original attack, Grant realizes they are approaching a waterfall. Lex screams how she can't swim, and to add to that, guess who shows up again? At the bottom of the 50-foot waterfall drop stood the T-Rex, looking like it knew that eventually they had to make their way down this waterfall and it was gonna be ready for them. There was no stopping it. They reached the edge and went over the falls. They managed to survive the fall, but the Rex began to stomp and chomp at the water like a grizzly bear hunting salmon. Once again, just like how it's shown in Rebirth. Now out of the raft, Grant was able to save Lex from drowning, and they all together stumbled out of the water. The Rex slowly realized they were no longer in the pool at the bottom of the falls, and started to look around for them again. Dr. Grant brought his eyes to the waterfall, and then he led the children straight for it. Behind it, he could tell there was an opening. They carefully made their way behind the falls, but the Rex was able to notice them and made its way right after them. Now behind the sheet of falling waters, they could see the Rex approaching, sticking its long tongue through the water to inspect what was beyond. So there wasn't really a direct waterfall scene in the river raft attack from Rebirth, at least not like how it's described in the book. But back in the day, they did actually reference this scene with this right here from The Lost World. You remember this scene? This was inspired by the original river raft attack, the more you know. Eventually, in the book, the Rex was shot with a tranquilizer dart and the kids and Grant were able to escape and continue on their way. In Rebirth, this shot of the Rex bursting through the gap between the rocks was this film's version of the waterfall close encounter. And I thought it was pretty cool how they even managed to make the Rex's tongue reach for the humans, just like how it was described in the book. Although in the book, this scene is a lot more freaky as the Rex literally grabs Tim with its tongue and begins to pull him towards his mouth, before being hit by the tranquilizer dart and letting the boy go. So that's the summary of the river raft attack scene from the book, but why did it take over 30 years to make it in a movie? Now, the secret as to why the river raft scene was cut from Jurassic Park has been general knowledge for some time now, and in short, the scene was intended to be in the film originally actually. They even managed to film some parts of the shot, but that footage has never been seen in the outside world. Ultimately, the scene was just too complex, expensive, and challenging to make it worthwhile for the movie. Where I think we can all agree that while the river raft scene would have been an amazing addition to Jurassic Park, it would be one that wasn't needed in order for the film to become one of the best movies of all time. But allegedly, they had plans to flesh out the entirety of this famous book scene, and even would have added a little added bonus, a stampede of other dinosaurs on top of the Rex attacking them in the water. In the end though, they just cut this scene and used the ideas within it later on in the series, and we still got some epic shots kind of inspired from this original Jurassic Park book river raft scene. Now over 3 decades later, Jurassic World Rebirth has brought this scene to life. Thanks to advancements in CGI, it can finally be made without eating up a large chunk of the budget. Now I'm gonna let Al take over the video for a second so he can kind of tell you how this scene played out for him, and if it's something people will be talking about decades from now.
Hello, it's the man, myth, the legend, Alistair back from the fiery pits of hell known as England, and I'm here to basically give my thoughts and feelings on how this river raft scene from the book has translated into film. A lot was riding on Gareth Edwards to live up to the legacy of this scene, but here it is, fully realised, and residents, it's awesome. The film was already good up to this point, with the odd incredible scene like that Titanosaurus set piece, but this is when the film really hit next level. I haven't had this kind of feeling watching a Jurassic film since probably like 2001. They managed to make the T-Rex actually feel like an animal stalking its prey. There's so much tension in the scene, and the way it's filmed is super dynamic. Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Also, if you're one of those people that hold their breaths whenever someone goes underwater in films, you've got to do it to this scene. I think what this does so well is that it does such a good job at recapturing the magic and soul of Jurassic Park. It's not about overly drawn out bike chases or volcanoes exploding. It's more personal, relatable moments that you can imagine yourself in. The kind of thing that sparks your childlike imagination. If you've been on a dinghy like this, you've probably been scared of falling off. Now, if you're a kid, you're probably also thinking, what if there's a T-Rex that's gonna get me? This scene taps into that kind of imagination, and that's why it's easily the best scene in the film. It's pure, unadulterated Jurassic Park. And from page to screen, I think it's been worth the 30-year wait. But of course, you'll all be able to see it from today. I think you're gonna love it. Now, back to Jacob to close things up.
Thank you, my man, and thank you everyone for watching. I had a good time delving into the history of this river raft scene, so if you want more historical videos like this, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do about it. As always, if you think I earned it, subscribe to the channel, do all that YouTube stuff. This has been Jacob, and I will see you guys in the next one.